And if you want to get in touch on Twitter, I am at AAP03102. And if you are looking to send me an email to complain about this workshop, then it's aap03102@gmail.com. And one of the things about conference that is actually kind of weird if you're a presenter is you get asked to talk to give your talk like the title and the description like months in advance, and so I was kind of embarrassed because I had to go back to the organisers of the conference and ask them what on earth did I say I was going to talk about, because I'd completely forgotten the title and the content. So that was, it was a wee bit cringy. I had to go back and ask them. But apparently, I was going to talk about Corona Conundrum Keepers. And we've been in lockdown situation. And so I'm going to talk about some lockdown projects, including some unforgettable collaborations, including some unbelievable conundrums, and including some unique creations, right? Okay. And that's where we're heading. And if you've arrived today and all you're here for is the my new song, right, my new math song, then that's going to be at the end. So if you think there's actually a workshop you'd rather see, you could go to that and then come back for the end, right, okay, and miss out all the other stuff. But that's not to be recommended. So let's talk about lockdown. So we ended up, we're a year on from the last conference, and just after that we went into the lockdown for the first time, and it was a bit of a shock to the system. We weren't really sure what on earth is this all about? What does this look like? What are we going to do with ourselves? And one of the things that you'll have seen loads of sort of unforgettable collaborations. Maybe it was like big choirs who had got together and recorded pieces across the world and pieced it together. Maybe it was like an orchestra, and all the instruments were and played their wee parts, and then they got pieced together in an amazing musical collaboration. And at the time, three maths geeks, Ed Southall, Ben Sparks, and myself, we got together and we said, why don't we do something mathsy, right? And we chatted about the song That's Mathematics by Tom Lehrer. So Tom Lehrer's this American sort of satirist, and he's in his 90s now, but he wrote a song called That's Mathematics. And it was originally meant to be for a TV show. It didn't get used for that, and so it got rejigged, and he wrote an extra verse to celebrate Andrew Wiles' big discovery or big proof of Fermat's last theorem. And so that was when this song became massive, and I've loved this song for ages. It's great, and it turns out that Ed does as well and Ben does as well. And so we thought, why don't we rope in a lot of like massive folk, people like from YouTube, like Eddie Boo from YouTube, Vsauce. Why don't we get like the Numberphile gang, like Matt Parker and Simon Pampena and Katie Steckles? Why don't we get some well-known maths folk from the telly like Rachel Riley and Hannah Fry and Bobby Seagull? And so we reached out to these folk, and weirdly they pretty much all said, yeah, we'll do it. We don't sing, but we like maths. I mean, why not sing about maths for a wee bit? And so we put together this song, That's Mathematics, which I have to admit, my wife isn't the biggest fan of. Mrs. Smith was a wee bit frustrated listening to me try and play this thing on the piano for these folk to sing along to, and that took me more takes than I care to admit, right? But as we get started today, and as people are still arriving, I'm going to play That's Mathematics.
Counting sheep when you're trying to sleep.
Being fair when there's something to share.
Being neat when you're folding a sheet.
That's mathematics.
When a ball bounces off in the wall.
When you cook from a recipe book.
When you know how much money you owe.
How much gold can you hold in an elephant's ear?
If it's noon on the moon, then what time is it here?
If you could count for a year, would you get to infinity or somewhere in that vicinity?
When you choose how much postage to use.
When you know what's the chance it will snow.
When you bet and you end up in debt.
Try as you may, you just can't get away from mathematics.
mathematics.
And you wild, strictly smile, start to sing, and voila.
QED, we agree, and we all shout hurrah.
As he confirmed what Fermat jotted down in that margin, which could have done with some enlarging.
Tap your feet, keep in time to the beat
Of a song, while you're singing along.
harmonize with the rest of the guys. Try as you may, you just can't get away from mathematics.
And that, my friends, is mathematics.
Yes, it is, Matt. That's right. So let's move on to some unbelievable conundrums, right? Some unbelievable conundrums, because actually another thing that I get involved. Look, I'm in the middle of a, sorry, this is Logan. Hi, Logan, say hello to the hundreds of people. I'm in the middle of a talk right now. What is it? What is it? Tell them about the newsletter. But I'm in the middle of talking about Corona conundrums. Are you sure? Okay, but it's totally going to go up my slides because, oh no, it's not. It's right on the next slide. Thank you for that, Logan. Totally unimprovised we segment there. So maths newsletter, and never do a talk where I don't mention my maths newsletter, right? And maybe some folk could stick in the chat a reason why they like getting the maths newsletter, right? So while I'm starting to talk about this, these on the screen you can see some people who have posed with the maths newsletter. Oh, right, that's the first two people have said milk rota. Thank you very much. So the newsletter does include the milk rota. Oh, everyone's going for the milk rota. That is the main thing about the newsletter, that people get to find out who's bringing the milk in for the fridge in our department. Thank you very much for that. Amazing. Yes, that made sense like 14 years ago when I started the newsletter for our department. Less sense now that it goes out to almost 4,000 people across the world. Who really needs to know that Jamie is on milk this week, or Lynn? But I'm glad that goes down well. Someone else in the chat said puzzles. So there are weekly puzzles, and some of these are old classics. Some of these are like brand new ones that I've sort of come up with, or some that people have sent to me. Alistair says sometimes I'll link the edition number or the number of subscribers to a weird maths fact. So there's weird maths trivia. Rory McGrath says it's a great way to end Friday. So they're giving you the hard sell there, right? All these folk that are doing that. Terrible jokes. Thanks, Mark. Yep, they do include terrible jokes, right? And if you would like to join the list of subscribers, you just send me an email and I will add you to the list. You can see some folk that I managed to convince to pose with the newsletter, including Johnny Ball. Had to draw a wee cartoon of him holding the newsletter, and then he gave me a photo. I did the same for Dara O'Brien. He didn't respond, and so I had to drag my family kicking and screaming onto the BBC's Family Brain Games and try and go to deal with that whole big shenanigans, just to make sure that we got Dara O'Brien in the top right there. You can see him posing with the newsletter. So there you go. Newsletters get resources, it's got math trivia and history, it's got a whole bunch of stuff, and there's at least a couple of folk who are at this talk today who are shown on that picture there. Amazing stuff. Okay, so that's the maths newsletter. I would encourage you to sign up because I love having people on board for that. So when lockdown 1 started, we didn't really know what to do with ourselves. And I actually, at the time, decided to make a wee puzzle. It was meant to be one puzzle, right? And it was cubes with letters that spell out maths words on these cubes. And I put it on Facebook just for my friends and family to have a wee look at and to try to solve. And weirdly, this went down a storm. I had loads of people who enjoyed it and said, "Can you give us some more?" And so this began a sort of spiral out of control, as things often do with me, into a whole series of unbelievable conundrums, or conundra, if we're going to be sticklers. I know there may be one or two parents in the room who would like me to say corona conundra instead of conundrums. But anyway, so the first one was at this one, and then the second, so I did another one, and this was about going to the shops during the pandemic. There was a sort of theme of what was happening round about us, and so this was about mystery items that you were getting at the self-service checkout. And by this time, people were loving it, and so what I decided I was going to do was I was going to make a puzzle, I was going to post it, and then the next day I would post the answer. And there were all sorts of folk getting involved, and when I was putting these on Twitter, they were getting thousands of views for each one. Schools were using them, primary schools, secondary schools. I had friends who were doing them with their kids at home. It was lovely to see, and they did have that sort of flavour of the pandemic. And so number 3, Corona Conundrum 3, was about me building shapes, squares and triangles using toilet roll. And I got a wee bit of a lambasting on Twitter for this one, because they were saying, why are you stockpiling these toilet rolls? You know, like we see all the shelves in the supermarkets, they don't have any toilet rolls, and it's you that's to blame. But actually, here's the inside information. I have my mother-in-law, Evelyn, since Mrs. Smith and I have been married, every time we go to visit Evelyn, we leave with a pack of toilet paper. Every time she sends Alistair to the shops to get loo roll, he's given the instruction of getting extra for the weigh-ins, and that's like some weird tradition. So see, when this thing kicked in, coronavirus, and people weren't able to go to the shops, I knew we would have plenty from the years of visiting my mother-in-law. So I did have plenty of toilet roll. I was able to build those stacks, no problem. And this thing, it just kept going, and it went all the way up to 50. So that's like 100 days of puzzles, with puzzles and videos included. And the last one was actually not the last one that I made. I made it earlier on because the BBC Scotland TV news show, The 9, had asked, will you make us a video? And I'd made this for them, but it turned out they ended up not using it. And but this one, if you do check out Corona Conundrum 50, you'll see that in the background, that was about keeping fit and keeping your brain active. And in the background, you'll see a Keep Fit video, which is probably one of the cringiest things I've ever put together. Me jumping about in the living room trying to do that. There is an extended version, but I have to decide what to do with that. I'm not sure I should release it right now. I'll wait until my children are even older and find that even more awful and horrific. So these Corona Conundrums, as I say, there's like 50 of them. You can check them all out. They're on my YouTube channel. There's a link that you can get to go and see them. And I've been revisiting these Corona Conundrums during this current lockdown, issuing them to my class and asking them to watch the video and see how that was solved, and then giving them a tweaked version. So maybe in the mystery items, I'm asking them about giving them a price for 2 items, which add and multiply to give the same amount, or 4 items. And some problems, you were asked for the largest total. I'm asking them for the smallest or the second largest total. So there's lots of flexibility in there, even if you're just using them as they are. And it was lovely to see like schools and all that sort of stuff getting involved, but there were also other organisations that were sharing these Corona Conundrums. I would highly recommend that you get in with your local authorities, PR person and the local newspaper, because actually that's just a brilliant way to like sort of boost that idea that maths is interesting and it's vibrant and there's stuff going on in maths. If the kids are seeing on a regular basis things appearing in their local newspaper, events that are happening, Crazy Pi Day stuff, Maths Camp, pretty much our local newspaper will print almost any maths story that we come up with, right? Okay, and even in the wee personal ads, I quite often have wee notices in there, just sort of, on Valentine's Day, like devoted to pie and stuff like that. But so when I did a Corona Conundrum that was about newspapers, our local paper were all over it. They were sharing that and retweeting it. Brilliant. There was one that we did which was around giving blood, and I I felt, I should definitely go and give blood. It was an essential activity. Logan had been in hospital for a couple of weeks with E. coli. He did a blood transfusion. And so I went to give blood and decided to make that into a Corona Conundrum and asked the nurse if I could take a video footage of this blood draining from my arm, and made a wee puzzle. And the Scottish Blood Transfusion Service, they shared that as well. And maybe the one that surprised me the most was number 42. And while I tell you about that, if anyone did have a favourite conundrum, perhaps you can have a think about that, and we'll maybe talk about one or two others. But Corona Conundrum 42 is special for a number of reasons, right? So I picked this, and it was along a football theme. I had chosen 7 players that meant something to me, including wee Juninho. It was kind of a nickname that I had because this wee Brazilian who just used to run about like crazy, and the fans loved it. This tiny guy. So he was in my team, and I had some classy players, and I had one for the future. Billy Gilmore's a pupil from, or was a pupil at our school. He's now big. He's now a big deal. He's going to be a superstar at Chelsea just now. And so I picked these 7 players, and the story went that I had given them all squad numbers, and they weren't your standard squad numbers. They were ridiculous numbers, and people had to figure out what the missing values were going to be for the players that I hadn't given the numbers for. Now, this was a puzzle which I imagined might not get solved. Right, it was ridiculous. It was tough. It was bizarre. It was right up there. And I do have a wee a subset of newsletter readers who, if I've got a really tough puzzle, that I know they'll come up with the goods. Right, or if someone sends me something, and I'm like, I have no idea. I know that I can send them, and wow, they would solve that for me. Right, and so this was one of these puzzles, and I didn't think anybody was going to get it. So imagine my surprise when not only did somebody get it, but it was one of the 7 players that I'd picked, right? This guy, Peter Cech, goalkeeper, used to play for Chelsea, and record-breaking Premier League goalkeeper. Not only did he retweet the thing, he solved it. He figured out that this wasn't anything to do with player names or the clubs or countries they played for. It was to do with the colours. And the original I Can Sing a Rainbow song, that red and yellow and pink and green, purple and orange and blue. And so he figured that out, and I was blown away with that. Absolutely amazing that this guy got involved. And so these numbers, why were they so hard to spot? Because we all know when you go into the computer and change colours in on Word or whatever, you can see the codes for the colours, so they're kind of familiar, aren't they? But we're usually giving them in hexadecimal form, right? RGB type thing. But I changed them to decimal, and so they were less familiar, and so people had to figure that out. Now that gives you how many? 7 numbers in a sort of recognizable sequence, right? 7 numbers in a sequence. And anytime you've got a sequence, your task has to be to get that on the place for sequences, right? The place for sequences is without question the online encyclopedia of integer sequences, the OEIS. And so if you've never checked that out, oh my goodness, you're going to lose like a week and a half because there's amazing sequences on there. It starts from right back in the basics, and you've got just natural numbers, and you've got square numbers and prime numbers and triangular numbers, but there's a whole host of interesting sequences on there. And I thought, well, I've got a wee sequence of 7 numbers, right? Why don't I see if I can get that onto the OEIS? Now that's a tough sell, because what you do is you apply and you put your sequence forward and you say where it's come from and you explain how it's robust, and you cite different ones it's connected to, and eventually I had people, the editors, coming back and saying, no, this is no use. No one's going to be interested in this. It's not a valid sequence. And so I was kind of gutted because I wanted it to be on the OEIS. And then, this is how long ago this problem started to formulate in my weird brain. Back in on Hogmanay 2019, I was out playing a gig with the Cayley Band, and I got an email, and that email was from a guy called Neil Sloan. Neil Sloan is the guy who started the OEIS decades ago. He's the man when it comes to integer sequences, and he replied to say, I think this should be on the OEIS. And so he was the guy who gave me the thumbs up. This was like a serious moment. I thought the closest I was going to get to a celebrity was going to be Peter Check retweeting this puzzle, but no, Neil Sloan, he's way up there, and this was an amazing moment, right? Okay, so there's a wee bit of the background to this this puzzle. Some people, thankfully, thank you for putting that in the chat, have talked about different conundrums that they liked, right? Okay, so for example, we've got. Oh, I'll come back to the number 38, Howie, good choice. He also said number 13 was about biscuit, the remote control biscuit delivery service. So I had a wee biscuit, a wee box of biscuits that I mounted onto a remote control car, sending it down the street because you couldn't go and give your neighbours biscuits, but they could maybe collect them on its way on their way down the street. Then there was one about playing card conundrum. Yep, okay, good choice, Simon. So this was about stacking cards, and this was quite an early one, and people did really like this, and because they could build it themselves, they could come up with formula. It was one that was dead flexible, and so there were lots of conundrums, and actually it's hard to pick a favorite, right? But today I want to just share one. It seems kind of appropriate, right? Not just because how he put that in the chat, but actually it seems appropriate that we would revisit this Corona Conundrum. For this one, I had to recruit 9 relatively good-looking chaps, and here they are. They're going to introduce this wee conundrum.
Hello and welcome everyone to this Corona Conundrum group chat.
Hiya.
Has everyone here used video chat before? Yeah?
Me,
I have.
this guy. They're a bit informal for my liking.
What do you mean?
Well, usually I'd like to say a hello with a hug, or at least a handshake.
Fine. Let's shake hands.
But I can't reach your screen at all. They don't even touch at all. I'm even worse. I can only shake hands with you, and you.
This sounds like a tenuous setup for a maths puzzle.
So, if you could only shake hands with anyone in a box that touches yours, how many handshakes would this video chat generate? How many handshakes would there be in a meeting with 16 screens or 25 screens? And are there any geniuses out there who can come up with a formula for an n by n square grid?
So I guess I could pause that there and invite you to go and figure out the answers to these things, right? And you maybe would do the kind of thing that you teach your students to look at a simpler case. What if it wasn't a 3x3? What if it was a 2x2 group chat, or just a 1x1? I don't know who has a 1x1 group chat. That's just a monologue, isn't it? And then try and build it up and see if you spot patterns and see if you can come up with formula. And that is kind of the way that I would encourage students to come up with the answers. And we have, I think I'm just going to fire through today. If we were in a workshop in Stirling, I'd let you explore it and come round and watch how you're getting on and chip in. But let's just double check the answers.
For a 3x3 screen chat, the answer is 20 handshakes.
For a 4x4 screen group chat, the answer is 42 handshakes.
For a 5x5 screen group chat, the answer is 72 handshakes. For a 6x6 group screen chat, the answer is 110 handshakes. And there is a formula for the n by n screen chat. The number of handshakes is 2n minus 1 multiplied by 2n minus 2.
Right, so this, I kind of made this Corona Conundrum puzzle and then didn't think massively about the maths that was underlying it. There was way more than I ever thought. This is a piece of paper a photo from a piece of paper that I took in the hub, right, during lockdown, when I showed the kids this puzzle and then started to look at it, and we were talking about, there was stuff to do with pancake numbers Katie Steckles. There's stuff to do with friendship graphs and Ulam spirals. You can see on the left-hand side, this was us looking at a 1-by-1 group chat. There's no handshakes in a 1-by-1 group chat, obviously. A 2-by-2 group chat, well, 6 there. And then a 3-by-3, the one that you were asked about, was 20. And then you can sort of see how these answers come. But there were things that I'd spotted that I didn't expect to, right? And I don't know if you've seen the Ulam spiral before. So Martin Gardner, he tells a story, or he was the one who told the story about Stanislaw Ulam, who's in a conference and he's a wee bit bored. Maybe like some of you, maybe you're thinking about going across to another talk, like just now, like embedding literacy or I don't know, maths outdoors, right? Okay, they're on offer right now. You could leave. Please don't. And this is but maybe you're like Ulam and you do a wee bit of doodling. I can see there's at least one person who's doodling right now, right? During this chat, and that's fine, because what this guy Ulam spotted was, as he started to draw numbers in a sort of spiral fashion, he noticed something about where certain number types appeared. Now he started his spiral with a 1, and then 2, and then 3. I've added in a 0 as well into the reckoning, right? But as I was doing that day in the hub with the kids, I said, well, do you spot any patterns? Do you notice any kind of numbers that appear that are familiar, that you've seen before? Do they appear in a sort of sensible place? Or is there any sort of pattern to what's going on here? And here's, obviously I've just done the first 142, weirdly, 142 numbers, and obviously you can see things like, there's the even square numbers. There's 10 squared, 8 squared, 6 squared, 4 squared, 2 squared, and 0 squared. That's nice, isn't it? And what about odd squares? There they are. There's 1 squared, 3 squared, 5 squared, 7 squared, 9 squared, and what's next? 11 squared. And you might say, well, that's a bit of a fluke, eh? I wonder if we kept this spiral going, whether we would end up with other squares appearing. Right, okay, and that's a good question to ask. And is there a reason why these numbers appear where they are? And actually, the thing that fascinated Ulam was this idea of primes and where they appeared in his spiral. And look at that, there's a bunch of primes, and look at that, it's a pretty strong, couple of strong diagonals there. I mean, we've got 109, 17 at 1, 41, 19, 5, 3, 13, 31, 57 gobs it up, right? Okay, but there are strong patterns there of primes along some diagonals, and then they're broken up with composites, right? Non-primes that break up that pattern, but they're on there. What else do we spot on this weird sort of shifted Ulam spiral? Well, there's some numbers called these are pronic numbers, so you find them on the OEIS. That's a sensible integer sequence, so that's on there. And you can notice that actually the numbers there, can you remember how many handshakes were there for a 1-by-1 group chat? 0. How many were there for a 2-by-2? 6. How many were there for a 3-by-3? 20. How many were there for a 4-by-4? 42. Right? And so those numbers, the answer to my question and the extension, are in this spiral. How bizarre. Right? And actually, these numbers, what I've done with those ones along that line there, they're all an even number multiplied by the next number along. So, for example, we've got 2 times 3 gives us 6. We've got 4 times 5 equals 20. Right? And so that's one group of the pronic numbers, and there's the others. They go in the other direction. So if instead you start with an odd number first and multiply by the next number along, then, for example, you will get 7 times 8 is 56. And you will get 9 times 10 is 90. And so these are pronic numbers, but I mean, thinking back to the toilet roll, there's a connection with these things here as well, isn't it? Because these numbers are double the triangular numbers, because that's how you get triangular numbers, isn't it? You take if you're wanting the nth triangular number, you do n times n plus 1 and you half your answer. And so these things are n times n plus 1 without the numbers halved. Right, okay, so actually there's a whole load of stuff under the surface that is worth checking out, right? Okay, so although this might seem like a ridiculous problem, I know that people have used this and have explored more than just what I was asking for. Right, some more lockdown projects, right? Okay, so Pi Day, 14th of March, I was going to say as if no one knows, but someone from my department actually asked me this week, how was Pi Day? And he asked me that on the 3rd of March. So I do feel I still need to, even after working with someone for 14 years, explain Pi begins 3.14, and that's why we celebrate it on the 3rd month and the 14th day every year. And this year, that means it's a Sunday. So I was thinking that doesn't always work great for school events. But actually, over Christmas time, it became clear that we might not be back in school in the way that we would want. And so I made sure that this year's Pi Day shenanigans revolved around something that was not restricted to the classroom. And so I came up with an I Spy puzzle hunt, right? And the idea is it's 100 clues, right? We made up 100 clues, all in poetry form, right? That take you on a mad trail round about Kilmarnock. And the idea is that the kids do it on they've got a Google form with all the clues and they submit their answer. They can win prizes and all that. And already we've got entries coming in. We've got kids from other schools and whatever taking part. With it's free to enter. It's for families to do, to try and keep within the restrictions. So I'm encouraging people to do it with their folks and get a wee bit of exercise in the process. And so it's going well so far. And as long as you don't tell anyone, right? Here's a wee extra surprise, right? So when they finish it, not only is there the chance to submit their answer, right, and then not only do they get to take part in it and enjoy that awesomeness and solve some massive clues, not only do they get to submit their answer and possibly win a prize, but they get a link to this video here, right? Which is like my geeky wee surprise at the end. Right, okay, so here we go. Let's see if I can get this to play.
Happy Pi Day, folks! Now, you might not be watching this video on the 14th of March. You might not be watching it on Pi Day. But chances are, if you landed here, then you probably heard something about my epic I Spy puzzle hunt for Pi Day 2021. And if you're one of those mathematical heroes who actually completed the I Spy puzzle hunt, then massive congratulations. And you'll also be noticing, just over here, that's the trail that you took. That's the path that you went on to solve these 100 geeky, poetic clues. So well done on managing that. There's still a couple of surprises to come though. First of all, we don't know who our ultimate winners are, right, okay? Because people have been submitting their answers and we're going to find out by the deadline of Pi Day 2021 who our champions are, and there'll be prizes for that. Actually, even if you don't want to enter the competition, or even if Pi Day has passed, you can still always do this puzzle hunt. It's going to be up there forever and the link is in the description. So, one final surprise, because let's be honest, this is Mr. Smith we're talking about, and this is Pi Day that we're talking about. And so I wasn't going to settle for just a couple of Pi themed questions on the way around this fun activity. Actually, if you completed the thing, then amazingly, as you trekked round Kilmarnock, you'll have unwittingly traced out a really special, really geeky message. And here it is. Can you believe that? Pi Day! Pi Day! There it is! Well done if you did that. Happy Pi Day, folks.
Right. So I'm quite excited about people finding out that the trail is quite long, right? It's like 6 miles long or something like that. And folk have been doing it in chunks to make sure that they get it done. But there you go, Pi Day appearing. Who would have thought it with the big pi symbol at the bottom? Okay, so that's one lockdown project. And the final one, the one that I'm going to finish with today, is something that I have been, that's been eagerly awaited. It's been frequently threatened. And here it is. We're going to do the Auld Lang Syne, the debut of that geeky math song. And it gives me a good excuse to share this wee picture, which I always find quite amusing. Because this is going to be about trig, right? So we're going to do this. I'm going to do this song today, right? And I always imagined that I would be doing this song for the first time in a room with you lot singing along. Actually, before the pandemic hit, I was thinking about this song, and so I was imagining a big, massive hands round the room, you know, all lang syne. That's what you should be doing. Do you know what I mean? And maybe doing it in a wee bit of a wave fashion to make that work. And I'm a bit gutted that that hasn't happened. And so I thought, because this is what I thought it would end up with, right? People doing this, right, like that. Sort of body popping wave, sine wave, right, like that. Okay, but I have to say, it turns out that's not as easy as you'd imagine, because I asked a couple of my friends if they would demonstrate that, right? Okay, so for example, here we go. This is right, get rid of him. Here's Bobby Seagull's attempt. It's quite static, Bobby. I don't know. And then Hannah Fry asked her to do it, and she completely sabotaged the thing. Right, okay, so it's all lang syne, Hannah. But look what she does.
I'm just going to do cause instead.
I'm just going to do cause instead, she says. I mean, what? Come on, Hannah. Right? So anyway, those guys didn't really help us out. And so I thought maybe it's because this whole body popping thing is too complicated for people to do. And so what I decided was maybe I'll make it a wee bit easier. What about if it's just this sort of motion? I have no idea who this guy is. I just literally found it on the internet. Right? That. Look at that. Everybody could do that. He then goes into the other bit. And so what I did was this is maybe another wee exclusive, a possible future Strictly Come Dancing pairing you're about to see here. Right? Okay, you ready? You ready? Right? So this is to demonstrate just how easy this maneuver is, that even these novices, right, okay, can do it. So here we go. Yep.
Perfect.
There we go. Managed to get the Deputy First Minister of Scotland to give it a go.
That's okay.
Well, you for sure look like you're having jolly
John
good time.
Swinney's had a tough. Oh, I can see people in the chat who are much better at this than me. Right? Okay. In the video, there's some videos going on that are just fantastic. Right. We're going to finish on time today, roughly. Right. But I'm going to finish with this song, All Lang Syne. You know that in the chorus, you're at home, you can sing along to the whole blooming thing, right? Okay, you're on your couch at home, nobody can hear you, just go for it. And certainly when it gets to the chorus, I'll be expecting some of that going on. But this is Auld Lang Syne Wave. Here we go. Trig equations be forgot, and graphs fade from your mind. This song will help you to recall that Auld Lang Syne. No matter the angle, divide sine by cos, and you'll find that tan's what's left. Trust me on this, you can borrow that fact with no risk of identity theft. For Auld Lang Syne, my dear, for Auld Lang Syne, stick up on hype and you will get that Auld Lang Syne. Yeah, I've seen some actions. The curves are smooth for sine and cos. Folks, don't mix up those two. The difference between both graphs is just a fade you're going through. Just with the song. That's terrible. Arriving just with the song. While this graph you'll see today, it's even got asymptotes, man. The tangent curve is the real deal and trumps your orange fake tan. For all lang syne, my dear, for all lang
Syne.
even function symmetry, the y-axis line, but maybe you're just odd like sine. These friendly chaps, these trig functions, fun to integrate and derive a sine curve amplitude 10 can give you a high five. For right angle triangles we can solve. SOHCAHTOA helps with these. The angles measured in radians, or if you're weird, degrees. For all lang syne, my dear, for all lang syne, you add and minus to get the sinus. That's the word for sine. Latin from Smithy. Earn full respect by memorizing trig exact values. 0, 1/2, 1 on root 2, square root of 3 all over 2. Finish up with 1 and that's you done. You've learned the facts for sine. Then in reverse you've got the rest. That'll give you the cosine. For all lang syne, my dear, for all lang syne. Handshakes, fist bumps, they've had their time. Give me a wave that's based on sine. Thank you very much, folks. It was a joy to be here with you. It was amazing to see you going crazy in the video. You've no idea how special that was for me. And I will record a proper version where my voice is not completely croaky. But thank you very much for coming today. I hope you have a brilliant SMC 2021. Enjoy, folks.
Yes, thank you very much, Chris. That was absolutely amazing. Great fun. So what I'm needing you to do just now is if you could all leave the meeting, if possible. And if not, we'll get ready for the next session, and I might have to put you in the waiting room. If you're in there for the next session, I'll just put you in the waiting room. Anyway, but thank you again, Chris, and I'll be with you for the rest of the day.
Woo! Right, so I can stop sharing screen. Whoa. Right, so people are just going to leave now. Excellent.
And I think we just need to put them into the waiting room.
Fiona, you can stay.
Fiona can stay.
Oh, I forgot to change my settings. I was meant to put on turn on original sound as the way to get for Zoom not to distort all the piano and vocals. But anyway,
oh, it was all good.
It was great. Yes.
I'll just put people in the waiting room. I'll make Fiona a co-host.
Yes.
Yes, please. Yes, because I need to be able to share my screen.
Yeah. Do I need to un-co-host for that to happen?
I don't
No,
think
it doesn't. No, it doesn't matter. No.
Okay, cool.
I think we can have a few co-hosts.
No, you can. You can have quite a few.
Okay, perfect.
As long as I can share.
Right, so I think I've now got it's just the three of us now, isn't it?
That's right.
And I think I don't know whether all those people that were arriving.
Oh, did you remember to record? Well done, Deirdre.
Oh, I've stopped, have I? I haven't stopped.
I think you're still going, but
They can edit. You can edit them quite. You can edit them quite easily.